Imagine someone buying your car back for more money than you paid for it. That would be nice, right? I mean, someone buying your car back for the exact amount that you paid for it would also be nice, but more feels like we're getting a little greedy. Let's make this more interesting. Let's say that you buy your car, drive it for a couple of years, experience a ton of problems, and you sell it for double, triple what you paid for it. I know what you're thinking. Sina, you've lost your mind. But no, this is exactly what happens under the lemon law. It's just that the person buying it is the car manufacturer, and the money that you're getting back above and beyond what you paid for your car is called a civil penalty. What's a civil penalty, you ask? Well, that's the topic of today's video. My name is Sina Rez Law. Not only am I a big car fan, but I happen to be one of the nation's highest rated lemon lawyers, which means manufacturers do not like me. That's because I fight for my clients when they've been sold a defective vehicle, and sometimes I can get my clients back even more money than they paid. As the name would suggest, a civil penalty, or a CP as us lawyers call it, is exactly what it would sound like. It's a penalty. More specifically, it is a financial penalty. In other words, cash. That penalty is paid by car manufacturers, for example, General Motors, FCA, Honda, to consumers like you. But before we go any further, let's understand the theory behind civil penalties. What's the purpose? The purpose is accountability, holding the car manufacturers accountable so they don't intentionally violate the lemon law. And under the law, we typically hold people or companies accountable by either sending them to jail or making them pay fines. So think of a civil penalty as a fine that's paid to you by the car manufacturer. So now that we understand what a civil penalty is, essentially punishment money paid by car manufacturers to people like you, the consumers, let's better understand how car manufacturers typically violate the lemon law. Manufacturers typically violate the lemon law in one of two ways. Let's start with the first. That's where a consumer, someone like you, communicates directly with the manufacturer to request a buyback, and that buyback request is intentionally denied. So this involves the consumer either picking up the phone, sending an email, an online chat, or a letter to the manufacturer, letting them know that because of the car's extensive problems, they're requesting a buyback. If the manufacturer purposely ignores this request or flat out denies this request or even delays forever, those are all different versions of an intentional violation of the lemon law. But keep in mind, you have to actually have a basis to make that buyback request in the first place. So that means your car legitimately needs to have some extensive problems. Let's give you two examples to help clarify. Let's use Sally and her 2020 Chevy Tahoe. Sally's Tahoe broke down on the freeway, stopped, and it wouldn't move. Ultimately, it needed a transmission replacement, and a couple years back, it also had some transmission issues. If you ask me, Sally has a clear-cut lemon, so GM would be wrongful in denying her buyback request. But let's look at a little different example. Let's use Bill and his 2016 Range Rover. His car is 8 years old, and the warranty expired long ago. Bill has had a handful of check engine lights, but he never gets around to taking his car in for repair. So it's true, Bill's car has plenty of problems, but it is not legitimately a lemon. Bill's Range Rover definitely has its problems, but because of the lack of repair and because of how old the car is, Jaguar Land Rover would be rightful in denying his buyback request. Now let's take a look at the second possibility of how the manufacturer most commonly violates the lemon law. This is where there is no buyback request, but because of the car's extensive repair history, extensive amount of problems, the manufacturer should know that this car is a lemon and they should proactively offer a buyback, but they don't. Now let's take a look at a real life example of one of our clients, Miguel. Miguel had a 2021 Ford F-150. So Miguel took his vehicle in for repair 8 times for his screen freezing. Some people may hear screen freezing and think, how serious is that problem? If you look more closely, that problem is actually quite serious because Miguel would be reversing and his screen would freeze, so he wouldn't be able to see what was happening behind him. Now, you could of course use the rear view mirror, but federal law mandates an operational rear view camera. For whatever reason, the service department could not figure out the source of this problem. They would even communicate with Ford corporate to figure out what was going on, to no avail. So that means that Ford corporate knew the issues going on with Miguel's car, but didn't get up to offer him a buyback. So we were able to recover Miguel a sizable civil penalty. Here's another example of one of our clients, Adam, who had a Ram 1500. His Ram 1500 went under a 3-month engine replacement. That is an incredibly long time to be under repair. FCA, the warrantor for Ram vehicles, was well aware of how long this repair was taking, but again, just like Miguel's scenario, they did not offer him a buyback. Adam, just like Miguel, recovered thousands of dollars in a civil penalty. But it's important to note, this is in addition to having his vehicle bought back. Here's a very important thing to note. Sometimes manufacturers will not flat out deny your requests, but what they will do is they will pretend to comply with your request. They will say that they need more time to review, that now it's being reviewed by a senior auditor, a senior team member, and they keep on asking for more and more time. They may even offer you a buyback, but they never actually take the steps to comply with that offer. The lemon law specifically says that they must promptly buy back your car. So if If it's been over 30 days and they have not bought back your car when they should, that's a violation of the lemon law. Before we go any further, if you're getting value out of this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe. It'll only take a second and it will mean the world to me. All right, now let's get to the juicy stuff. You have a legitimate lemon, you ask the manufacturer for a buyback and they have denied you. What happens next? You just simply ask them for civil penalties? Good luck with that. Now it's time to hire a lawyer. A lawyer such as myself will then file a lawsuit on your behalf. Why a lawsuit? Because without one, you virtually have no chance of recovering a civil penalty. We need to leverage the pressure of a lawsuit to force the manufacturer to do what's right. Your lemon lawyer will take depositions of the key people at the auto manufacturer. They will send them several hundreds of written questions, which we call discovery. They will do all different types of actions to hold their feet to the fire, to hold them accountable, to make sure that you're getting exactly what you're owed. Eventually, with the right set of facts, the right lawyer behind your side, you being a good client, and a whole lot of patience, you will eventually likely qualify for a repurchase plus some substantial amount of civil penalties. Let's go through a specific example and use real numbers to help make this point clear. Let's use Chuck, for example, and his Cadillac Escalade. Let's say that his Escalade costs $100,000, but he has only paid $20,000 so far, which means that the bank is owed the other $80,000. Chuck can get a buyback where he recovers $20,000, the money that he spent. But if he's eligible for civil penalties, he can get up to $200,000 in the state of California. Well, where are we getting this $200,000 number? His car only costs $100,000. That's because under California's lemon law, you can potentially recover up to 2 times the amount that is paid or payable, which is essentially the cost of the car. So 2 times $100,000 is $200,000 in potential civil penalty damages. So now let's break down this potential settlement. Chuck could get back his $20,000 in a repurchase, the bank would get their $80,000, and there would be potentially $200,000 in civil penalties. I want to be careful not to get your hopes too high, but let's use this example that we just laid out to break down specific numbers to better understand what civil penalties could look like for you. Chuck will get back $20,000 that he's owed. We will get our attorney's fees paid, and the bank will get the $80,000 that they're owed. But there's also $200,000 in civil penalties. So it's very common that there is some percentage split on the civil penalties. A common percentage split is 40-60 or sometimes even 50-50 between the attorney and the client. So let's say that Chuck is getting 60% of that civil penalty. That's $120,000 in addition to the $20,000 that he's getting back in his repurchase. Again, we're using really big numbers here, so don't get too excited, but these numbers should hopefully help to illustrate this point. Every car manufacturer is capable of violating the lemon law, but some car manufacturers do this way more often than others. These are companies like FCA, the makers of Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler, Ram, Fiat, Alfa Romeo. Also Jaguar Land Rover, the makers of Jaguar and Land Rover, Range Rover vehicles. There's also General Motors, the makers of Chevy, Cadillac, and GMC. So now that you understand the power of civil penalties, you probably understand why they're used as a tool to help encourage good behavior by the car manufacturers. Even more so, it is a big reason on why you should care about the lemon law and why you should bring your lemon law case when you have one. By the way, you can absolutely skip the legwork of dealing with the manufacturer directly yourself, and you can hire a lawyer right off the bat. My only advice is that if you do choose to deal with the manufacturer directly, don't give them too long of a leash. If you see that they're dragging their feet or they're asking you BS questions, contact a lawyer. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a like and comment below with your experience with the lemon law. And if you are looking to get in touch with us, go ahead and follow the link in the description below. My name is Sina Rez Law, and thank you for watching.